Hare Krishna, dear devotees, warm welcome back again to now our ongoing series on the glories of Sri Vrindavan Dham. We're continuing with our series on the seasons of Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Vivishesha Shunyavadi Pastritadi Shatani. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, yes, we're continuing with our description of the monsoon season, and this will be part 2. What better way to begin describing it than to quote Srila Prabhupada? Vedic etiquette is such that if a disciple hears spiritual truth from the mouth of any devotee, big or small, he must approach his spiritual master and hear the same truths from his mouth in order to realize such knowledge. Narahari Shakar writes in the Krishna Bhajan Amritam, Anya Mahatam Mukachiksha Vishesham Sattvapi Gorav Dheyam. And I quote him, on hearing teachings from the mouths of other great personalities, and even on understanding these teachings, one should bring them to the Guru. And he continues, Tad eva gurushu pata niyam natu gora hela karya tavya. And again I quote, these teachings should be heard again from one's Guru. One should never neglect one's Guru. Hare Krishna. And Srila Narottam Das Thakur also writes in Guru Vandana, we're familiar with this quote, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koribo Aikya Ana Kora Ho Mani Asha. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from my spiritual master's lotus mouth. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So to begin our second class on the very beautiful monsoon season, I will share with you some things that Srila Prabhupada has said about this rainy season in his Krishna book. In chapter 20, Srila Prabhupada writes, there are very strong winds blowing all over Vrindavan in the rainy season, carrying clouds from one place to another to distribute life-giving water, he writes, to needy living entities. He says that water is needed after the summer season, and clouds are just like a rich man who, in times of need, distributes his money even to the point of exhausting his whole treasury. In the same way, clouds exhaust themselves by distributing water all over Vrindavan in the rainy season. And Prabhupada goes on, during the rainy season, in the evening there are glowworms visible at the tops of trees, and they glitter just like lights. But the luminaries in the sky, like the star and the moon, they're not visible. During the rainy season, small ponds, lakes, and rivulets become filled with water. Otherwise, the rest of the year, they remain dry. During the rainy season, all living entities in the land, and the sky, and the water become very much refreshed, exactly like one who engages in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord. Then Srila Prabhupada shares with us, he writes, we have practical experience of this with our students in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Before becoming students, they were dirty looking, although they had naturally beautiful personal features. But due to having no information of Krishna consciousness, they appeared very dirty and wretched. He uses the word wretched. Since they have taken to Krishna consciousness, their health has improved. And by following the regulative principles, the rules and regulations, their bodily luster has increased. When they are dressed with saffron-colored cloth, with tilak on their foreheads, and beads in their hands and on their necks, they look exactly as if they have come directly from Vaikuntha. Very nice analogy by Srila Prabhupada, very kind analogy by Srila Prabhupada, how the rains make Vrindavan come to life after the hot season of summer. So in the same way, this Krishna conscious movement is giving life, real life, to the members of this movement. And thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for that. So in our research in the Vrindavan Research Institute, I came across a really beautiful monsoon season pastime as told by the famous Vaishnava poet Hit Paranand Das. The people of Braj, because it's a famous pastime, they call this pastime Banjara Leela, or the pastime of a messenger. Banjara means messenger. So one time, on a cloudy monsoon day, Sri Radha was sitting in the late afternoon on her balcony in Yavat, with all her sakis around her. And suddenly she saw a messenger with a big bag on his shoulder, crossing through the village of Yavat, where she lived with her in-laws and her so-called husband Abhimanyu. And seeing this messenger walking to the village of Yavat, she started crying. And concerned, Lalita said to Sri Radha, "O rosebud in the garden of Sakis, why are there tears in your eyes?" And Sri Radha replied, "Lalita, I'm missing my maternal home, Varshana. No invitation has come from me from Varshana for the Tej festival, T-E-E-J. No invitation has come for me from Varshana for the Tej festival." Now, Tej is the third bright day of the monsoon season, in which all the ladies in Vrindavan go to their maternal home for swinging on a swing. 3-day festival. The girls go to their home where their original family members are, and they stay for 3 days and swing on a swing. This is Tej festival. So Radharani continued, "My mother and father in Varshana, they must have forgotten me and my marriage to Abhimanyu here in Yavat. And my brother Sridham, who's always busy with royal services," she said, "seems to have forgotten me as well." Then Vishaka spoke up saying, "Dearest Radhe, please don't speak like that. Your mother and father love you more than their own lives." So Sri Radha said, "Then, dearest Vishaka, let us send a message to them. Please quickly call that messenger over there who's passing through Yavat. I'm sure he's from Varshana, and he can take a message to Varshana." So Vishaka was astonished, and she asked Sri Radha, "How can you know that the messenger's from Varshana?" So Sri Radha replied, "Because of the deep love I have for my village, Varshana. If any Varshana Vasi crosses by me, my senses come alive, even if I'm sleeping." Wow. So quickly the Sakis sent their manjaris to that Banjara, to that messenger, and called him over to see Sri Radha. So the messenger came, and he offered his respects to Sri Radha, saying, "O Princess of Varshana, how can I serve you?" So Sri Radha said, "My dear Banjara messenger, do you know my father Vrishabhanu and his wife Kirtida Sundari? And do you know my dearmost brother Sridham?" So the messenger replied, "Dearest Radha, the glories of your family are known even in the heavenly planets." And so true it is. Who is the unfortunate person on this planet who doesn't know your glorious family. And I am from Varshana myself. So surely I know your illustrious family. I'm from Varshana, so I know. But Sri Radha, she started crying again. And she said to the messenger, "Oh messenger, then please go to Varshana and tell my mother that I miss her so much. But it appears she's forgotten me so quickly. Then go to my father and tell him day and night his daughter cries in separation from him. And tell my brother that I miss his long talks with me. And then ask all of them, have they forgotten about me?" So the messenger smiled to Sri Radha and he said, "Radha, do not cry. I will run and deliver your messages to your family. Then surely they will come and take you back to Varshana for the festival that's coming up." So the messenger took off, and when he arrived at Varshana, he very quickly went to see Mother Kirtida. And after paying his respects, he said, "O mother of the most beautiful daughter, Sri Radha has sent a message for you all. The Tej festival is just around the corner, and she has yet to receive an invitation to her maternal home here in Varshana for the swing festival. She fears that you may have forgotten her, and she'll be condemned to stay in the prison house, in the prison house of her in-laws." We discussed that many classes ago. So hearing this, Mother Kirtida Sundari, she became very emotional. And gathering many sweets and gifts, she sent Sridham in a chariot back to Yavat to bring Sri Radha and her girlfriends to Varshana. Now that evening, upon seeing Sridham arriving in Yavat, Sri Radha exclaimed to her girlfriends, "Oh Sakis, just see, my brother Sridham is here." And as soon as Sridham descended the chariot, Sri Radha ran forward and embraced her brother. And she asked him, "My dearest brother, how are mother and father at home? How are my uncles and aunties? And how is my dearmost calf, Sri Mohini?" Now, Sri Mohini is another name for her calf. We generally know it as Tungi, but perhaps this is a nickname. But it's stated there in this beautiful description. "How about my dearmost calf, Sri Mohini?" So Sridham replied, "O Radha, everyone is in bliss, but they miss you so much." Then Sri Radha prepared different dishes, prasadam for her brother, and after feeding him, took permission from Jatila, Kutila, and her husband Abhimanyu, who were a little suspicious. She took permission to leave, and then she and her Sakis got up onto a bullock cart, driven by Sudama, and left for Varshana for the 3-day Tej festival of swinging. So hearing the news that Sri Radha was coming for the Tej festival, the whole of Varshana was there to receive her, to greet her when she arrived. And upon arriving, Sri Radha jumped off the chariot and ran and embraced her mother, Kirtida Sundari. And afterwards, she met with her father, King Vishwamanu, who gave her many precious ornaments to wear for the swing festival. So the next morning, upon waking up on the first day of the swing festival, Sri Radha asked her mother, "Maya, where will the festival take place today?" And Mother Kirtida Sundari replied, "My dearest Sri Radha, it will take place on the banks of Prem Sarovara." Many times we've taken our Parikrama party there. "It will take place on the banks of Prem Sarovara," she said. "And your brother, Sridham, has installed the long swing for you. The long swing for you." So hearing this news, Sri Radha and her girlfriends ran towards Prem Sarovara for swinging. And at that point, Krishna, who, against all odds, is always looking for opportunities to be with Sri Radha, heard she was going to Prem Sarovara, which means the lake of love. And then he revealed his mind to his cowherd friend, Madhu Mangal, when he heard she's going there. He said, Madhu, my beloved Sri Radha is going to swing at the Tej festival, which is being celebrated at Prem Sarovara. Now you are the most intelligent of the Brahmin community. Can you think of a way that I can spend some precious time with her there? So, happy at being recognized as the most intelligent amongst the intelligent class, Madhu Mangal, he thought, carefully for a moment, and suddenly he came up with an idea. It's a very interesting idea. He said, yes, my dear friend Krishna, one of my cowherd friends lives in Varshana and just got married yesterday. Now, it's a custom here in Braj that the mother-in-law of the new bride takes the new bride to meet Sri Radha so that Radharani can give the new bride her blessings. It's a tradition here in Braj. So I have a plan, Madhu Mangal concluded. Just follow me. So then Madhu Mangal took Krishna to meet this, newly married couple. But when the mother-in-law of the bride heard that Madhu Mangal and Krishna were coming to meet them, she told her new daughter-in-law, don't you dare look at this rascal Krishna, who steals the hearts of all the young girls of Braj. But when Madhu Mangal and Krishna arrived, this new bride, she saw Krishna out of the corner of her dupada, the veil the girls wear on their heads. She looked out the corner and she saw Krishna. And she became astonished at Krishna's beauty and grace and fainted to the point that no one could revive her for the time being. So Madhu Mangal whispered into Krishna's ear. And taking that opportunity, Krishna quickly left and, disguising himself as that new bride who'd fainted, went to the girl's mother-in-law and said in a very sweet feminine voice, Maya, I'm ready now to go to Prem Sarovara to get the blessings of Sri Radha for my marriage. That's where she is for the swing festival. So let's go and get her blessings. That's our tradition. It was Krishna saying that in a sweet voice. So now, not recognizing Krishna disguised as her daughter-in-law, the mother and Krishna, disguised as the daughter-in-law, left to meet Sri Radha at Prem Sarovara, where the swing festival was beginning. Now, as they proceeded, the mother-in-law instructed her new daughter-in-law, who was Krishna, instructed her. Now, when we get there, just look at Sri Radha and touch her lotus feet, but don't speak too much, for she is the princess of Varshana. Now, when the mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law arrived at Prem Sarovara, they saw that Sri Radha and all her friends were wearing green-colored saris and red-colored blouses. Why? Because it was monsoon season, and the Vrindavan forest was just blooming with all these beautiful red and green flowers. So they dressed like that. So, coming up to Sri Radha, this mother-in-law said, Dear beautiful Sri Radha, please accept my prayers and respects. This beautiful young lady married my son yesterday, and I'm bringing her to you for your blessings, so that their marriage will be successful. Then Krishna, disguised as the daughter-in-law, approached Sri Radha and touched her feet. And out of all her gopi friends, one after another. And after that, Sri Radha said to the daughter-in-law, Dear one, I give you my blessings. Now, please uncover your face. I want to see your beauty and give you some gifts, which was part of the tradition. Radha also gives gifts at that time. But disguised Krishna hesitated to remove his dupada, So Sri Radha said, "That's all right, dear one. I can understand you are shy." Then turning to the mother-in-law, Radha said, "Dear lady, you can go home now, and I will take your daughter-in-law to swing with me, to swing with me. And then I'll safely send her back with my friends before midnight." So with the blessings of Sri Radha, the mother-in-law happily went back home, and disguised Krishna started walking with Sri Radha to the swing. And as they walked along, Sri Radha began asking this daughter-in-law many questions. But the daughter-in-law kept replying just, She didn't really reply much. Radharani was asking so many questions about her life, and the daughter-in-law was going, She wasn't giving any direct answers. And Sri Radha thought, because she's a very chaste and shy girl, this is why she doesn't speak much. So finally they arrived at the place for swinging. And Sri Radha actually invited this daughter-in-law to sit close to her on the same swing. And with the help of Radha's Sakis, they started, the swing was being pushed by those Sakis. And as they pushed it more and more, uncharacteristically, it started going higher and higher and higher. Well, the Purnamasi is involved here. The swing started going higher and higher and higher. And as it did so, disguised Krishna in a feminine voice, he said, "Oh, Sri Radha, I'm so scared. Please, you hold on to me tightly. Oh, Sri Radha, I'm so scared. Please, you hold on to me tightly." Now, hearing this, all the Sakis below were shocked to see how this new gopi dared to give instructions to Her Highness. We know as the Queen of Vrindavan, Sri Radha, to hold her. It wasn't the proper etiquette to give instructions to Radha. So Lalita, it's so sweet. Lalita looked up and called out to this new gopi, "Listen, young girl, Sri Radha kindly took you on her swing, and now you think you can give her instructions? Do not misuse her kindness, young girl." But then suddenly, this new gopi, Krishna disguised, just lunged and embraced Sri Radha. And seeing that, all the Sakis immediately stopped the swing from swinging and running forward, grabbed this new gopi, and chastising her, pulled her off the swing. But lo and behold, as they did so, a famous flute fell out from this new gopi's clothes. A famous flute fell out from this gopi's clothes. And all the Sakis and Manjaris of Sri Radha stood there in astonishment, realizing that this new gopi, this daughter-in-law who had come to Sri Radha for blessings, was actually Krishna. And as Krishna very happily uncovered his face, Sri Radha became very angry because of Krishna's deception. And in a huff and a puff, she left to sit under a nearby kadamba tree in anger. Now, at this point, one of our acharyas points out an interesting fact. It's really interesting. He writes, usually Krishna assumes a disguise to pacify Sri Radha when she's in Man, so he can get closer to her. He assumes many times a female form or whatever, to come closer to Radha and appease her Man. But in this pastime, the Acharya points out, his disguise causes her to go into Man. In other words, his disguise causes her to become angry. A subtle point, but very relishable. Very relishable. So anyway, seeing Sri Radha so angry, Krishna tried to appease her, but to no avail. So then he asked the Sakis, help me. appease her. But Sri Radha was so upset with Krishna's deception, she wouldn't listen to anyone. Even Lalita tried. But Sri Radha said to her, Lalita, Krishna always does these things. You remember last monsoon when I was swinging on the swing? He came silently from behind me and bound my dupatta to a thorn, tearing it. So then Lalita, like all gopis, wanting to somehow bring Radha and Krishna together. This is what the gopis, the Sakis and the gopis really want. They want Radha and Krishna to be together because they're always lamenting in separation, vipalamba bhav. So one of the main services of the Sakis and the gopis is to bring Radha and Krishna together. So in this mood, Lalita said something extraordinarily beautiful to Krishna. It's probably my most favorite part of this pastime. She said to Krishna, as a river takes shelter of two banks, as a flower takes shelter of two leaves, as a child takes shelter of two parents, and as rain takes shelter of two dark clouds, in the same way, Krishna, you must take shelter of Sri Radha's two lotus feet. By joining your two palms together and while shedding tears, apologize to her from your two lotus eyes. Please allow me to recite that again. She said to Krishna, as a river takes shelter of two banks, as a flower takes shelter of two leaves, as a child takes shelter of two parents, as rain takes shelter of two dark clouds, in the same way, Krishna, you must take shelter of Sri Radha's two lotus feet. By joining your two palms together and while shedding tears, apologize to her from your two lotus eyes. Hare Krishna. So, Krishna joined his palms together and with his head bowed, walked over to Sri Radha and fell at her lotus feet, begging for forgiveness. Now the acharyas say that at this point, Sri Radha's heart just melted. To see the Lord of the three worlds, they say, who is her lover, ask for forgiveness. So she gave up her man, as she always does, and while embracing Krishna, she said to him, Krishna, let us make this monsoon season successful and swing together now on that kadamba tree, where the cuckoos sing the songs of our meetings, where peacocks dance looking at your hair, thinking it is a dark cloud, and where bumblebees hum around us, making an umbrella above our heads. Where the cuckoos sing the songs of our meetings, where peacocks dance looking at your hair, thinking it is dark clouds, and where bumblebees hum around us, making an umbrella above our heads. True poetry. Then the divine couple sat on the swing, and all of Sri Radha's girlfriends took turns pushing the swing. Now, it's said that the swing swung so high that Radha and Krishna's lotus feet touched the crescent moon high in the sky. And at that point, Sri Radha herself became afraid and held Krishna tightly, which became the source of all her happiness and the happiness of all of her girlfriends as well, her Sakis and Manjaris. Hare Krishna. What a sweet pastime. And I was thinking that by having this good fortune to hear such Braj Leela, these pastimes of Vrindavan, this is what gives us the strength to give up our meager attachments to this nasty material world and awaken our desire to serve Krishna in the spiritual world, thus making it possible that one day, maybe hope against hope, and maybe we can also swing Radha and Krishna at the swing festival in that auspicious monsoon season at Prem Sarovar. Srila Prabhupada said in a Srimad Bhagavatam class in Tehran, Iran, on August 10th, 1976, and I conclude today with this, and I'm quoting Srila Prabhupada. As we quoted him in the beginning and the middle, we will quote him in the end. He said in that class, so we have to practice this Krishna consciousness. Here in this material world, we have to work. For without work, you cannot even maintain your family or your body. But the spiritual world means there's no work. Just as Krishna has nothing to work, he is simply enjoying, what is that called? Yes, the swing. He's simply enjoying. What is that called? Yes, the swing. That is the spiritual world. Chintamani prakara sadamasu kalpa viksha. It is a different world. Hare Krishna. So thank you, Prabhus. We'll be back again in a couple of days. I think that in our research we found the rituals that the pujaris follow in Vrindavan for serving all the Brajabasi, the Vrindavan deities in the month, in the season of the monsoon. So we'll share that nectar with you in a couple of days. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dhama ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yajna ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, back home, back to Godhead ki, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe.